Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Bites. This is our show about creating video game assets. I am your host, Omni Jacala, and for today's episode, I am joined by our fellow creative director, Sczesiul.
Hello.
Also joining us today, we have the lead 3D modeler on this project, Pick.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have our rigger, Tiba.
Hi.
So back in October, we created a video showcasing a Metroid Dread Samus model that we created in Blender. And we made that with the intent of just sharing it with the world for, anybody to use for animations. And so that's currently free to download. You can find a link to that in the description. But today, we just wanted to walk through the creative process for this model. So, Chris, I think you had the idea.
I had this idea to just make this happen when we saw the E3 trailer. And I just noticed there was a ton of reference. There was a ton of close-up shots and really informative information in the screenshots that you could take from the trailers. They released a bunch of trailers, marketing art, etc. On top of that, on the Japanese Nintendo website, that same day they announced the game, they announced that they were going to be doing an art book. And that art book featured this turnaround. We were like, this seems pretty doable. Little did I know how complicated this Samus is. She's very complicated. So that's kind of where things sparked off.
I gotcha. So, typically when any new game eventually does release, the most important models, like the main character, are pretty quickly ripped from the game, and then eventually they make their way onto things like Models Resource, where you can download a lot of models from games. What made you want to create your own version of Samus rather than just waiting it out and getting the official one? Why did you want to make your own?
Well, originally we thought it would be a lot less extensive of a task. I personally may have underestimated how complicated this model was. I was just like, ooh, shiny. It looks really cool,
Sure.
So we wanted to recreate it. The hope originally was to get this out many months before the game came out. Unfortunately, we just came out in right under the wire. The same week of the game. I think it was the game came out on a Friday and we released the model on Monday.
Yeah, the game officially released on October 8th, and our video and the download went up October 4th. So just barely making it in there. There was a lot of people who, when they saw the announcement, we got a lot of people on Twitter posting little renders that they did, or short little animations, things that you can do in a short period of time. So there was a deluge of things that came pretty quickly, so it was cool to see.
Yeah, and they're still happening today. We still get notifications on Twitter, and definitely tag us if you do anything with the model, with the rig. It's great to see those animations. It's great to see those renders. That's why we built it.
With the opportunity to create your own custom one, you can choose to shoot for higher try count or a better deformation with the rig or things like that.
We wanted to create a model that would be more detailed because we were going to give this out to the public and people were going to be able to use it for renders. And we wanted the renders to look really, really crisp. We were aiming for a specific route, 49K. We wanted to keep it under 50. And if you look at it, there's some beautiful flow to the topology. Peck did an amazing job creating this kind of nice in between. Not too low, not too high, right in a nice place where it can give great renders, where it can move well with the rig and not slow down your computer for anyone.
I think I remember you described it as somewhere in between the Nintendo Switch mesh and the render mesh they use for the promo art, somewhere in between there. And having the model be a little higher fidelity than the ripped Switch model also gave it kind of a life of its own. We also wanted to make it easily accessible for people. So, not everybody has the know-how or the connections to say, let me get this game model day one.
Modeling organic shapes and things like that is a very different process from modeling hard surfaces like chairs and furniture or armor and things like that. So having these two work in tandem is sort of an interesting challenge especially when it comes to rigging, because you don't want the hard parts of the suit to feel like they're bending in ways that doesn't make sense, but you also have those organic elements. So
yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting because given how sleek the new suit design is, you can almost see the more human figure from the past designs. Because if you think of the Varia suit from Super Metroid and how I guess more clunky the the leg armor is and the torso armor. Like there's more, it's almost more of a robotic look. But in Dread, it's like smoothed out. You can really tell like there's a human underneath. With the X Parasite, we had the sculpt, all that detail in. Seeing where like where the flow goes of the parasite and like, okay, where does this end? Where does this tuck into? That was also kind of fun.
Yeah. So with the X Parasite, we actually saved that for last because it is, as Pick just said, it's organic. And so there's a little bit more room for error, I suppose. I mean, we tried to follow the flow as best we could.
Yes.
But that's kind of what it is. It is a flow. So the X Parasite, it's supposed to, at least I interpret it as almost like muscle tendons, So it's kind of like taking the inside of a person and wrapping it on the outside of your... So she's got like the white spacesuit. On top of that, she's got the blue and red armor, and then on top of that is this X Parasite. So it's kind of like the third level outside of her whole sort of apparatus. And whereas with hard surface sculpting or modeling, it is just that we weren't sculpting these pieces pretty much. We were box modeling everything. And so to get the shoulders, to get the helmet, all that, it's like a precise angle to each edge, to each face, to each vert. Like everything was so scrutinized to the very minute angle, trying to match the angle and the camera angle and the field of view and perspective, all that stuff. Just trying to get our model to line up with what we saw in the screenshots was very important to us.
So once you figure out all of the modeling, you get all of the high-res model to look right, and you produce, well, I guess that's the next step, right? You have to produce a low-res version of the model that's a much more conservative number of polygons, because the high-res sculpt is going to be tens of millions of polygons, right? So we've got this high-res model. It's got a lot of detail, and anybody who's done significant 3D modeling work, you'll know that there's this really powerful tool that we have called normal map bakes. And they're overpowered. We love to say that they're overpowered because it takes all of these detail and just creates a sort of a facsimile of it.
There's like an art to the reduction, I would say. There's like an art to the low poly, bake,
Optimization.
Working within, optimization, working within a limit, There's something about that that's fun.
Like, were there any specific components of the suit that, we consciously decided, let's do something a little bit higher fidelity from what Nintendo did?
There was one screenshot from E3 that actually showed the wireframe. How crazy is that? And so we got to see what they did. In certain areas, they kept things a little bit more detail. In some cases, even looked a little subdivided in that screenshot. But in other cases, such as the X Parasite, it was obvious that it was very limited. So in those areas, we knew the X Parasite, we wanted to bend certain ways, that when we got this model over to Tiba, we wanted those X Parasite areas to flow, especially on her, in between the joints, like the hips and underneath the arms and whatnot. We wanted to make it work well, so we decided to add a little bit more than what they had.
Actually, I think the chest decals, the geometry on the chest, I believe are baked on in the game model. Yeah, last I saw.
That's correct. So all the insets, all the lights, everywhere there, it's all totally baked. It's all normal map. If you're talking about normal maps doing a heck of a lot of work, that's what it does in the original game. In ours, we modeled it and then used the normal map to kind of accentuate it a little bit more.
Passing this to Tiva for rigging, I'm kind of just curious, when it comes to rigging in general, what kinds of... Do you prefer to use systems like Rigify, or do you prefer to kind of just set things up from scratch?
It really depends on the model, or... if I'm rigging a model, I think about what kind of animation I'm going to do with it. Usually, I only use systems like Rigify because it's fast. It's very powerful. You can do a lot of complex rigging with Rigify.
It's also just a really great foundation too. So for this, it's a humanoid character with several small differences, or maybe medium, but once you have that body in there and you move the joints into place, it's how easy is it to go in and add an arm cannon to that and controls to that arm cannon, for example.
Oh yeah, it's very easy. In Rigify, there's a system like a default arm, and these bones you can modify it any way you want.
I'm curious with the cannon then, was that all set up in the meta rig, or were there any changes that you did after the rig was generated?
All the things that I use was provided by Rigify. I did change the controllers. For example, the hand cannon have these wings. So I can like use the Rigify to set up a simple bone. Do I want to control this bone? Do I want to have a controller? No. Okay. So I just like set up a driver, and after this I can easily add another bone to control this driver. So it's very flexible to change anytime in the project.
So taking it back to Samus then, when it comes to armor in general, like were there any particularly challenging parts of Samus's design that you had to contend with when you came to just rigging and deformation and things like that?
I think the most challenging part was the shoulder pads.
Oh yeah.
Because Samus is like a very agile character. She likes to jump, to shoot. So there's a lot of movements in the arms. So setting up the shoulder pads was like, I had to thought a lot about the process.
Metroid fans, real quick. Metroid fans aren't going to believe this. Samus can't actually freaking raise her hands over her head because her shoulders are in the way. They're so flippin' big. It's insane. Agile, action-packed, she's a heavy fighter, etc. She can't even put her arms over her.
Yeah, I'm sure cosplayers can attest to how difficult it is to actually, move around in a suit with that kind of design.
So yeah, I mean, like you guys said, it's a really awesome silhouette, really awesome armor, but practically it doesn't work.
Sure. It's so nice to be able to hand off rigging to other people, having to deal with it.
Well, I'm sure Tiba feels the same way about us. He's like, oh, I'm so happy I don't have to model.
Sure, I suppose so.
Oh man, when like Chris showed me the model, I was blown away. I thought like, oh my god, you guys literally took the model from the game, right?
We broke into Nintendo's headquarters and stole it from their servers. So we've got the rig set, right? And, we wanted to produce a nice sort of promotional video for it. And so we used the rig. We got all these cool action poses. The rig definitely is performing as we want it. But the sort of crossing the finish line was a little bit of a process for us because
we just wanted to get it out.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, this is getting a little close to the deadline. Yep. Metroid Dread's about to come out. Can we get this done? So I think it was like that weekend leading into it. We just kind of sat and became a render farm. There was several members of the team were just rendering out these turnarounds. But overall, for promotional video, we just wanted to kind of have just a nice showcase of it, right? So almost like a portfolio. We're zooming around the model, rotating. We're doing different poses here or there because it's rigged and it's able to do that. We just wanted something that was a little bit more atmospheric and moody because the theme of Dread was dark and ambiguous, I guess, in some ways. So we put Samus in a nice dark backdrop with like a gradient fade. We put her in these very interesting compositions and intense lighting, typically with rim lighting and a couple of overhead spotlights. Lit up the emissive and let her go. You actually, Omni, one thing that's not in here that you did was you created the typeface.
Oh, that's right. I did do that. Yeah, I've been on a typeface kick over the later, well, forever, yeah, but the second half of the last year, 2021, I was making a lot of typefaces. And when Metroid Dread was announced, I started on the typeface that's based on, the title, the logo. But yeah, I decided, I wanted the full alphabet of the Metroid font. So I made that, and we used that in the video. And unfortunately, we don't have Scruffy here to talk about the music he did. But there's a cool track that he put together real quick.
But, next time we'll get him on, because he will be back.
Yeah, for sure. All of that being said, again, download this if you want to just play around with it. It's there for Blender users out there, and Blender is a growing community, so download it and make some cool stuff, and tag us on Twitter.
Yeah, beginners to pros, we've seen a lot of them. Tag us on Twitter, really amazing art. If you want to just start, it's a good place, so go download it.
Well, that's it for this video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We always appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us and talk about nerdy stuff like this. If you want to help us out, you can feel free to leave a like or a comment. I hear the algorithm likes that kind of thing. And, maybe even subscribe. Also, definitely be sure to check out some of Pick and Tiba's other work by following them over on Twitter. You'll find links to that in the description. And of course, a big shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. If you like what we do here on the channel and you'd like to give us a little extra support, you can become a patron and get access to some exclusive channels over on our Discord server. On those channels, we like to post little previews of projects that we have in the works, which, patrons get to see way before those projects get shown here on YouTube. So if that interests you, be sure to check it out. And hey, our channel anniversary is coming up pretty soon here in a few weeks. And we've been cooking up a little something special, so be sure to find your way back here. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but, this one might even be worthy of a reaction, if you like to react to things. We'll share a little bit more about that on Twitter, and also probably here on YouTube in the community tab, but it is going to be a big one. So, anywho, thanks so much, and we'll see you again next time.